Laia. This is Lucy. And today I want to tell you how you can incorporate language learning into your daily life and how you can use little things to add up to a bigger picture. Implementing these small things every day will make a huge difference in the long run, and everyone's busy, everyone has places to be, people to see, so these are some small ways that you can incorporate language learning into your everyday life. The first way that I suggest you incorporate language learning into your daily life is by listening to podcasts. There are so many language learning podcasts that you can literally pick and choose, and you have so many episodes to listen to, and you will never run out of a podcast to listen to, which is amazing. The way you can do this is by listening to the podcast on your commute. So whether you drive a car every day, whether you use the train or a bus, or you walk. My best tip is to download the podcast when you're at home or have Wi-Fi, so that while you're on your commute you can just press play. And it also helps to download a few of them at the same time and then put them in a playlist so they play one after the other. In terms of podcasts, there are podcasts that are specific to language learning, and then obviously there are podcasts that are just in the target language. So depending on your level and depending on what you want out of the podcast, you can choose whether to listen to a podcast that teaches you the language at a low level, therefore being comprehensible input, or a podcast about a completely unique topic, completely in your target language for the more advanced learners. I personally listen to podcasts that teach me the language because they talk in simpler language and they talk slower, so it is really helpful. In the same sort of realm as podcasts, another suggestion is to listen to music in your target language. Someone in the comments of one of my previous videos actually did mention this, so thank you, and I completely agree. You can listen to music in your target language to get used to hearing the language and get used to hearing the words. In the beginning, you might not understand what you're listening to because listening to music is quite different to listening to talking, but as you listen more, you will get used to it. There are also playlists from each country that has that country's top music list that you can listen to. So for example, there is the top 100 songs in Spain, and you can download the playlist and listen to them. And so all the music will be in Spanish. Another way you can incorporate language learning into your daily life is by following creators on social media who speak in your target language. So, for example, creators from the country of the language you are learning. You can also follow language learners of a specific language on social media, and we all know that's great for motivation. So when you're on your lunch break or when you are just a bit tired and wanting to scroll through your phone, you can scroll and see content in your target language. So that's a very simple way to incorporate it. So instead of only seeing, for example, English, you can see different languages as well. So because you are watching this, I assume you like watching YouTube. I love watching YouTube, and most of my free time... Laia! Most of my free time is spent watching YouTube. If you like watching YouTube like I do, not only follow people in your target language and people who teach the target language, but make sure you watch at least one video every day in your target language, or a video of someone who teaches your target language. So in between your usual videos that you like watching, just pop a little extra video in there in your target language. So for me, that would be Spanish. So in between all my English videos, I just watch one Spanish video to make sure I get some input. And I suggest one because watching a lot of videos in your target language, especially as a beginner, can be very overwhelming. So starting with one is a baby step, and it will make a difference. If you like reading, read one page in your target language every night before bed, or if you read in the morning, every morning. It's very overwhelming to commit to a whole book in another language. So if you break it up and commit to one page every day, I promise that book will be read eventually, and you will be getting a little bit of input every single day without it being too overwhelming or taking too much time. So for books, you can either buy books in your target language that is meant for a native speaker, or you can buy books like this one by Ollie Richards, which is meant for language learners. It all just depends on your level. Then this next tip is mainly for more advanced people because I tried it when I was a very beginner and it was very overwhelming. And that is to change your phone settings to your target language. Now this sounds easy enough, but once you go into those settings trying to accomplish something, that's where the difficulty begins. And that's where you really have to understand. So depending on your language, you can change your phone settings into the target language. And that's obviously a very easy way to get input every day because you look at your phone every single day. And what I've also noticed is when you change your phone to a target language, your social media kind of adapts and shows you and suggests creators from that language. So that can also be a good way to find social media creators in new language. Then my final tip, and this one is not so easy to implement, but set aside study time and stick to it. So even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, I promise it will make a difference. You don't need to go sit at a desk for an hour or 2 hours and study every day. And I know some language learners online do that, and that is what you see, but in reality, it's not necessary. 10 or 15 minutes a day will make a difference in the long run, in the big picture. So what I mean by set aside a time is choose a time, maybe 10 minutes before bed, maybe 10 minutes before work in the morning, maybe during your lunch break. Set aside a time and then stick to it. Do your language learning during that time, whether it's a textbook or something digital, whatever it may be, stick to it. You know your priorities. You know if your priorities are grammar or reading or speaking. So in those 10 or 15 minutes that you set aside for yourself, and it can be more, it can even be less, choose something to do and stick to it. So those are just a few tips about how to incorporate language learning into your everyday life. And I'm sure there are way more tips, and these are not the only ways you can incorporate language learning, but it's just some that I would like to share with you. So let me know if you have any other tips in the comments and leave them down below. Tell me, how do you incorporate language learning into your everyday life? And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.